Hi, everybody. Welcome to Indie Author Hour. I'm Corey Miller, and I'm the creator of Simply Scandalous Mystery Thrillers, among other things. And this is my co-host.
I'm Hardy LaBelle, author of the Video Game Careers, Career Guides for Aspiring Video Game Developers.
So I thought today we've got a couple things we can talk about. One of them is we have to follow up on last week where you were going to talk about your novels, fiction, because you wanted to discuss all of it. So we're going to come back to that. And then we're going to talk about Brains to Books. Anyway, it's a cybercon that I found over on Goodreads. Hopefully the woman who created that will be able to join us here in this conversation. But if she can't, then I'll give you more details about cybercon before we get out of Indie Author Hour. I'll tell you all about that. And of course, we're going to start with some updates. And I thought we could also talk about the marketing choices that we make and why we make them. Whether that's spending money on a certain thing or whatever. So I thought that'd be fun to get into. But I thought we could start with updates. So what happened with you since last week?
I have been pushing forward on e-class design quite a bit. I finished my scripts. This was a few weeks ago, and the next step for me was to get into the actual design of the slides, the visual design of the slides. And it's not, I mean, it's indie, but it's not author. So I don't want to, sidetrack us too much, but the old school of thought with e-class development apparently was, you put up a bunch of, you create a PowerPoint slide with a bunch of bullet points on it. You narrate to that, you slap it up there, and you charge whatever it is that you're going to charge. And the new school of thought is that if you're not doing more to try to engage your student, then you're maybe not doing as much as you possibly can as an e-instructor to enact or facilitate the kind of life changes that people come looking for. And so the new school of thought is more about immersion. It's more about gamification. It's more about quizzes. It's more about things that are going to help make sure that the information that you're giving to the people sticks. And that is what I've been wrestling with now, is trying to figure out what methods I want to use for my class to make it more sticky, more immersive, more transformational, and not just a, hey, you bought access to my videos where I explain some concept, with PowerPoint slides in the background. And it's been very interesting. It's very fun. It's super interesting to dig into. My favorite kind of one of the banner or flag carriers for the new school of e-course design is the Great E-Course Adventure, which is a class that I signed up for in beta because I happened to see one of their promotional materials float by. And what they did was, or what they are doing, I guess I should say, since they're still in beta as they're rolling out modules and developing the content for this class, is they created a map. They created this map that sort of said, well, you're going to be in, pre-launch territory, and then you're going to go through the swamps of, pre-launch jitters and all this stuff like that. And it was kind of a fictional territory. But as soon as I saw it, I don't know, for me, it really, it created a very fun feeling in me. I was like, wow, that's neat. I see what they're doing. They're trying to go on a journey. And that was a factor or a form of gamification in my mind. I mean, it's not – anyway, it made it feel more like a game. Let's just put it that way. I don't want to try to put too many words around it. And I love that. It was really neat. So what I've been trying to do is come up with, all right, what am I going to do for my classes and for my e-learning efforts to capture that same spirit? Because, I mean, that's been my background for such a long time, is gamification. Really, that's what it's been all about. So finding a way to gamify my classes about game development has been pretty cool. And I'm super excited about it.
So have you contacted your email list at all to get, a gauge on what they would want to see in it?
No, I have. Well, I have asked them about content. I have asked about specifically, what would you like to know more about? I've definitely done that. I've pulled them. As a matter of fact, one of my tweet jukebox quizzes pops up as a, hey, do you have questions about game design or level design, actually, in this case specifically?
Right.
And it's set to whatever it's set to, whenever it happens to pop out. And every time it comes out, it gets bounced around in the Twitterverse, and it scores, a few more questions on it that I fold into the content that I'm creating. And my main thought with that content is that I'll use a lot of those questions specifically for webinars. So, I'll sort of say, hey, here's the common questions that people have asked me about level design. Answer those in the format of a webinar. And if you have deeper questions, if you want to know more, or you're interested in having this as a career, let me direct you to this e-product that I did. So.
But have you asked them how they want the material delivered to them? I mean, like from a gaming, you're talking about gamification of it. Maybe some of those people have some ideas on how they'd like to actually engage with it.
Oh, believe me, everybody thinks they're a game designer.
You might get some good ideas, though.
No.
You never know. No, you don't think creative?
No. Well, I mean, let me put it this way. How to put this without sounding harsh. Everybody thinks they're a game designer. That's number one. I mean, everybody thinks they're a game designer.
Yeah, I don't. I'm not in that group. No.
Fair enough. But I suspect you've. Let me try to think if there's something else that you've encountered where people always have an opinion about what it is that you're doing. I'm sure there must be something in your life, something that you're an expert at, something that you've done for a really long time. And as soon as you happen to mention that, people are like, "Oh, let me tell you my thoughts about that."
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Well, we don't necessarily have to delve into what that is, but the reason that I'm resistant to necessarily sort of asking everybody, hey, what would you like to do, is two reasons. And it's funny you should ask this. One is because I did that once on a very early project in my career as a game developer. I had a very egalitarian approach. I kind of walked in the door and I was like, we're doing this as a group. Let's make a thing together. What do you want to do? And what are you trying to achieve? And as a matter of fact, it was a spectacular failure. It was just a crash and burn failure. The project was canceled. The team was disbanded. It never saw the light of day because I spent all my time trying to reconcile what Schmedley wanted and what Melissa wanted and what, Joe Schmo wanted, rather than just saying, here's what we're going to do. This is what we're trying to achieve. Let's go get it. And because it was so mushy, we never achieved anything. Instead, I spent all my time reconciling. That's number one. Number two, the reason that it failed, the reason that we couldn't necessarily achieve things when you're trying to be, at least from my perspective, too open, is when you're trying to make anything creative. And I hope you would agree with me about this, but I'm not sure. We'll find out. You need to really know what you're trying to achieve. You have to have a very clear set of intentions about what you're trying to do. And the more that you, at least in my experience, the more that I open that up and allow other people to give me other intentions, the more it tends to drain away from my certainty about what I want to try to achieve. And so, when someone will come along and say, oh, what you ought to add is this, or what you ought to change is that, I often find myself second guessing, or I often find myself kind of going, oh, wow, should I add that? And should I radically change my own plans? I had thought it was going to go in a different direction. So the reason I'm resistant is because I don't want somebody else to tell me how to design it. I'm designing it myself, and I want to know very confidently that I'm making choices that are based on choices and that I'm moving forward, as opposed to, making choices based on some sort of weird gestalt that I don't necessarily agree with or believe in, but I'm making promises that I am not prepared to keep. And it could just be I'm a jerk. It's possible that I find design to be, and any kind of design, not just game design, I find it to be an intensely personal process. And I don't know. I just, anyway, in my own personal process, I often run into people who want to try to tell me hey, you know what you ought to do is blah, whatever it is. And I usually just come like, yeah, well, that's okay. You know, I can hear.
Nod and smile.
Yeah, exactly.
Smile.
And then say, no, I'm going to have confidence. And I guess last part about this, I'm sorry to rant about this because it's not necessarily about authoring, but it definitely is an indie thing. The other thing that's interesting about it is part of the reason I have that reaction is because I've seen what happens when I follow through on my impulses, my own instincts about what's right and what's wrong, what's good and what's bad. And I've seen what happens when other people, well, I don't know, when other people follow through on those impulses. And there are certain people that I have incredible respect for and hold in the highest possible regard because they're able to achieve fantastic results. But most of the time, you know, if it comes down to should it be what I think or should it be what Schmedley thinks, I'm going to go with me pretty much 99.9% of the time. Because I just, you know, I know me pretty good and I know what I'm capable of. And I trust me a lot more. So anyway, I ask people what they want to know, but I'm not prepared to necessarily ask them how they would like me to prepare that information. I put a lot more faith in my own ability to discern, you know, boil it down and come up with the right answers. And maybe that makes me a jerk, but if so.
No, I don't think so. I think, and you're right, it comes up in a lot of different areas. I mean, this whole concept of trying to, as an author, trying to figure out what path you should follow versus all the paths that are out there that everybody else is doing and laying in front of you. And eventually you just have to come up with your own way to do things and path. That's just, and I've been thinking about that a lot actually in the last couple of weeks because I've made some adjustments in what I'm doing in my approach and all that. So yeah, I totally get it. It's fine.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. There's a couple of things about that. One, I remember some famous author, you might even know who this was off the top of your head, basically said there's 3 simple rules to writing a great novel. And it's just 3 simple rules, but no one knows what they are. Or was it 3 simple steps? But in any case, I thought, who's this?
It's Steve.
Oh, hey.
Yeah.
Hey, Steve.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
Yeah. The new homepage. Anyway, so the 3 simple rules, you know, I think is hilarious. And to me, what that means is everybody needs to figure out their own process. You know, they need to come up with solutions that are satisfying and are, you know, creatively authentic for themselves. And those 3 rules are probably different for everybody. That's why when you were talking about, you know, your writing process, I was quite fascinated to write all those things down because, you know, you do things differently than I do them. And honestly, you've been more productive in terms of being able to generate content. I mean, I can write a lot and I have written a lot, but I have never crossed a line where I feel like, okay, this fiction is now ready to present to the world. And I don't know. I need to make some decisions about that. I need to think about that. Anyway, your content, which creative, I don't know, creative impulses, creative control, all that goes back to that novel stuff that I was talking about last week, started talking about. So it's related in the sense that I had a mutual, or this friend of mine, old friend from, you know, long time ago in the past, introduced me to this group of kind of an indie publishing house. Let's put it that way. Indie publishing house that was publishing, you know, titles in this particular genre. And he had written, I don't think he wrote a novel with them, but he had contributed some stories to anthologies that they were working on. And I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, that's interesting. And so this is going back to, you know, the novel stuff that I started to talk about last week, and maybe we can talk about this week. Anyway, so I sent them I forget what the term is, but it kind of a pitch letter saying, you know, they're interested in novels in their shared universe, their created universe. So I sent them a query letter. I guess that's what you call it, a query letter. I said, this is me, this is my background, and I'd like to tell this story as a novel. And they said, that sounds great. Terrific. Go for it. Steve says, no work is ever perfect. If your changes are not making much improvement anymore, time to stop. Steve, that's actually a good point. And I think that's where have the most trouble is I am a hyper perfectionist when it comes to creative content being put out in front of consumers. I hold creative content to this unbelievably high bar, my own and anyone else's. And in fact, my wife and my kids love to tease me. They'll say, I'll sit down and, I'll start watching a TV show and I'll make one of my, kind of characteristic derisive noises about whatever the show is. And they've literally kind of turned to me and they held up my hand and they said, Dad, please don't ruin the show for me. I'm enjoying it. Don't ruin the show. And so the rule now is that if I am tempted to ruin the show by being overly critical and pointing out its deeply inherent flaws or whatever, I have to leave. I have to leave. Stand up and walk away. Don't ruin the show. And so that's what I do. I'll walk away rather than sort of being like, look, let me tell you why this is so absurd. But because I'm right about the fact that it is absurd. And once those things get stuck in your head, you can't go back to the show and like it the same way anymore. And it's because I'm not trying to break my arm, patting myself on the back. I'm just super critical about this stuff. I'm very hypercritical. And even the tiniest flaw just causes this like aching pain in my head. Well, I hold my own stuff up to that same standard. So no matter what I write or no matter what I do, I look at it and I go, is it, world-class great? Is it all-time great? And if it's not, then I get frustrated with myself and I blow it up. Mm-hmm. So, okay, novel. Jumping back to the novel. So going back to this indie publisher, right? They were interested in a novel set in their shared universe. And so what I did was, based on my own research, I sent a list of questions to them because they sent a kind of a boilerplate contract my way saying, oh, sure, you can sign up for this. So then I wrote back and I started asking all sorts of questions like, okay, well, who's going to buy the ISBN? And, what's going to happen with royalties and what's going to happen with promotional efforts and all the rest of this type of stuff? Well, an awful lot of, I don't know if I could say an awful lot of, let me just say, a few of the indie publishers that I have dealt with so far, very small press publishers, they don't have answers for those questions. They haven't thought about that. They're kind of like, I wrote a story that I love and I'm going to put it out into the world. Yay, check it out. I put out a story and I got my friend to draw the cover. Well, I'm not interested in, doing that kind of work. I want to actually make, professional quality stuff. So I asked a bunch of questions and this publisher, kind of was like, oh, I don't know. That's a good question. And I never really thought about that. And I'm not really sure. So then that kind of gave me this note of warning. And he came back. And one of the things that I said was, in the nicest possible way, to my own credit, I was like, hey, the covers on your previous books were maybe not quite as, stellar, kind of professionally good as some of the work that's out there. And if we're going to try to elevate our game and really, reach as much of an audience as we can, I think we need to up our cover game. So this guy wrote back and said, absolutely. If you find somebody, if you find a cover author or cover artist, let me know. So I happened to find someone in the Seattle area. I reviewed their portfolio. I looked at them. I met with them in person, discussed the story, discussed their influences and things like that. And I was like, this person is a superstar. This is great. So I put the artist in touch with this publisher. And suddenly I got an email back from the artist saying, wow, this guy is like really harsh. Yeah, absolutely, Steve. Sure. Let's just wrap up this conversation about novel stuff and then you're welcome to join us. Anyway, So he's like, this guy was incredibly harsh. So I got looped in on the email, and basically this editor was kind of like, I looked at your stuff, but I don't like your style. And then the artist came back and said, well, I can be flexible about the style. Here's my rates. And the cover, the publisher was like, no, that's crazy. That's way too expensive. We're not going to pay that for a cover. And I just said, okay, well, you know what? I'm out. Like, I like this kid, this guy that's going to do the cover painting. That person can produce a world-class cover. I've seen what you're capable of. That ain't it. And so, I'm out. And I actually sat down with the cover artist, and we came up with a beautiful cover. And I worked with a graphic designer that I like to come up with a design for the cover that I like. But I'm all right. But because I'm not doing it in the shared world setting, because I'm not writing it for, that knucklehead, it forced me to kind of go back and re-examine all the fundamental underlying of the book. And I don't know. I have tried several different times to kind of rewrite the story. I've taken a couple of runs at it with that sort of bloody-minded, finish what you start and don't give up on it. And I don't know. I don't know if it's because I'm mad at that publisher, or if there really wasn't, if the kernel wasn't necessary, the kernel of the idea wasn't strong enough to support it kind of as a standalone thing. I'm not sure, but I'm just not super feeling it. So I have this beautiful cover, and I kind of have a concept for a book, but each time I've started, I've just gotten frustrated and annoyed with the story, and I put it aside. And I've written, I don't know, probably 2.5 novels worth of content, none of which I feel like is necessarily the thing. It really is there. So when we had our conversation last week, so here a couple of takeaways on that. First of all, for what it's worth to everybody that's out there, I think indies need to, number one, do your homework. I have a friend who is, kind of in that ultra small press or vanity press world, who writes short stories and has them, submitted and included in anthologies all the time. You might consider him to be a star in his particular genre, and he never gets paid. He's never sure what the promotional work is going to be, or, what kind of promotional efforts the publishers are going to put in there. There's never any clear accounting about who owns what or how that's all supposed to go down. So if you want to, as an indie, I think you need to do your homework up front and get satisfactory answers as to exactly how the business of the business is going to be conducted. And do yourself a favor, or heck, if you want, send me an email and I'll send you the list of questions that I put together, if I can dredge it up out of my email, because I think that gives me an idea. I should write that as a cheat sheet. Maybe that's a better idea. I'll just write a cheat sheet so that it becomes something that our listeners can use. Put that together, go through, get good answers to those questions, because if someone that you're working with can't answer those questions, then I don't think you want to be in business with them. I really don't. I mean, I think you're better off. So that would be, I guess, takeaway number one. And whoops, sorry, I smacked my computer, made it jiggle there. And I think number two is, one of the reasons I walked away from that indie deal was because, I don't know, if I'm going to write a book and self-publish a book or small publish a book, I don't need a lot of static about, the cover design. I don't want to argue with people about what that content is going to be or what that process should look like. I just can't imagine giving up that kind of control and power in a process where ultimately it's going to be up to me to promote it and, publish it, do the work, do the writing, and put it out into the world. Right. So I would say that for indies is takeaway number two. Number one, do your homework. And number two, don't give up creative control because you think you need somebody's help. You are the motivating force. You are the creative force that's behind this work. And I think it's way better for you to maintain that control and drive things to conclusion the way you want them to, for good or ill. Ultimately, I think it's our own business. It's our own instincts. That's why we're doing this in the first place. Giving up that kind of control to anybody it just doesn't make sense. So I don't know what to do with this cover. I don't know what to do with this novel. I'm not sure. I liked your suggestion, Corey, last week of, maybe just trying to put it out of my mind for a little while, writing something else that's going to be more fun. And I like Jim Kukril's advice. Jim Kukril from the Sell More Book Show. At one point, he had suggested the idea of always starting with a cover. Because the cover production takes such a long time, start with a cover. It makes the book seem more real. I like that. So I got this funky cover for this monster book, that's kind of floating around. But I have a buddy who has volunteered to paint a cover for something else. So I might just kind of table the monster thing for a little while and just try to go with this other thing and sort of let him start the cover for this other book. He is by the way, going back to my earlier comment about my friend's going to draw a cover for my book. He's a professional painter. Please don't
caveat in there.
He's not just some, schmo off the street who's never done this before. He's a big time creative director, who works in video games and also has crossovers with Hollywood, given the intellectual properties that he's working on. So I'm not just going to accept a cover from some schmo. It's still going to be, high quality professional cover. And I think, I guess that would be number 3. Don't put a bad cover on your book. Just don't do it. There's no reason to do that. Spend some money, spend some money on a good cover, because it's so important to get a good cover. Anyway, so there you go. 3 tips in my own sad novel experience.
Mm-hmm. There was an article, and I think I may have mentioned it in the author hour a couple of weeks back. But this article came out, and one of the things it was talking about was, the primary thing it talked about actually was the difference between the people who are more of emerging authors like us, and then the indies who are successfully making a living off their books. And they spend some money on editing and they spend some money on their covers. And it wasn't that they spent thousands of dollars on their covers. Some of them spent $100 on their covers. Some spent about $500 on their covers. So there was a little bit of a range there. But they were spending money on their covers was the point. They weren't designing them themselves. They were hiring someone to take care of that for them.
Well, oh, sorry, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Those are 2 things that, I'm fortunate. I have an editor in my family. So yeah, I get to use my editor for free, and that's awesome. But normally, if I couldn't do that, I'd be hiring an editor to go through all of my stuff once I got it to a point that I thought, I need somebody to just put the little star on it and say it's good, and then move forward. So those are 2 really valid points. We should probably let him come on and ask his question.
Yeah, let's Steve come on. Sorry, Steve, I had to ramble about that for a little bit, but come on.
Go ahead and call in and we'll bring you in.
Hi.
Hey.
Hi, Steve, how are you?
Good, thank you.
Welcome back.
Yeah, nice to see you. It's been a couple of weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, thank you. Bit confusing calling in these days on Blab. I had to think, what? Pressed a few things and it works.
Things changed a little bit. Yeah. I had to switch computers because I was having issues.
Oh, really?
So, yeah, I just changed computers and said, I'll do it on my other laptop. So what was your question? You were talking about drafts?
Yeah.
I've lost it in the chat.
Yeah, final draft. I'll just try and make myself look less ghost-like. That's better. It's because the window's right in front of the screen and it's terrible for contrast. Anyway, so I'm back writing again. It's a wonderful feeling. It's been a long, long time. I finished the animation, and so now I'm using Final Draft. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on this way of writing, whether you're going to, I don't mind if you say to me, no, that's awful, you're going to run into problems, or if you go, oh, wow, whatever your reaction is. But what I've done is are you familiar with Final Draft, by the way?
I'm not.
No, me neither.
Oh, okay. Well, all right, then imagine this, if I may, and as a concept, never mind the software. So, some people write with cards, physical cards. So Final Draft has a cards view, and you set up your cards. And the thing that struck me as ex-computer programmer, is that you can zoom out and you can have, I've got 30 cards in front of me, and I'm rewriting the end of my script because unfortunately with all the editing that I've done when I'm animating it, it's now too short for a feature. So I'm having to extend the end. So I've got the cards in front of me, and now the concept is, your thoughts please, is I wasn't quite sure. I had things that I wanted to put in the script. I've stuck them, one card equals one scene, and then I've been moving the scenes around using the software until the order seems to make sense to my mind. I mean, never mind the software then, as a concept, is that how you guys do things? What do you think of that as a concept?
I think it's fabulous. It's very much like Scrivener. In Scrivener, you can do a similar thing where and that's the software I use when I'm writing. And so you can create cards, index cards. And I do the same thing. I put one scene essentially, or a little outline of maybe one sentence per card, so I know what that scene is about.
Yep.
Now, what I don't do is I don't tend to move my scenes around. That's just not the way I write. It kind of comes out in the order I want it to be. Sort of weird that way. But the concept is great. I love that idea. And I think it's really useful for a lot of different people. It just depends on your style of writing. Hardy, what do you do? Do you do something like that?
I do something similar. I start on paper when I'm trying to get the outline for my story. I'll start it on paper and just draw, not really a flow chart per se, but something that kind of helps me to visually understand what the story is, what the structure and the flow of the story is going to be. Mostly because I find it more difficult to visualize the flow in something like Scrivener, even with the little cards. I'm a super doodle orientated person. When I'm doing serious design work, I can't talk for more than a minute or two without actually drawing some doodles. As a matter of fact, you can sort of see here that I'm doodling even as we're, doing our chat on Blab as I'm thinking about stuff. And it's just, my hand is I don't know, I can't stop myself from doing that. It's just a part of my process. So I like to work on paper first before I get it in there. But I have found that once I make the transition over to Scrivener or something like Final Draft, being able to move that data around freely without having to cut and paste or something horrible inside of Word is a much, much better solution. So much more flexible and intuitive than trying to write a really long manuscript in straight up word processing software.
So that's great. So my question is, if I may continue, is once you've got to that stage, so you've now block the thing out then somehow, whether it's on paper or via Scrivener or what have you. Do you then bother with all this character arc sort of stuff, seeing what the character's doing, and do you do that?
Me or Hardy?
You go first. You're the big time writer. I'm just a tech nerd.
I am not a huge outliner person. I'm very much a pantser person, and I'm trying to outline more because I've learned that it actually makes life easier for me when I'm trying to write, which is another reason why I can write in my scenes.
Based on the look on Steve's face, I'm guessing he doesn't know what a pantser is. Do you know what that means, Steve?
No, sorry, I don't.
Okay.
I thought
so I tend to not do outlining. There's people who write and they outline every little detail, and there's people like me who we really don't. So I might come into a story with, I have this really cool name for a character. And then I go from there.
Wow.
Which has happened. That has actually happened. I wrote a whole novel, a middle grade novel, based on the names of two characters, and then said, I think I wanted it to be a sci-fi-ish kind of thing about time travel. And then sat down and started to write it. And that was my Nano project a couple of years ago, National Novel Writing Month. And I decided that the day before Nano was going to start, that I would do it that way. And I sat down, and that manuscript is such a mess because I didn't do a whole lot of outlining. So I learned from there going forward. I should do at least a little bit. So I'll do on those little cards, like I said, I'll put one sentence, maybe two, of what the scene is supposed to be about. And that's enough for me. I don't have to have a whole list of this is what needs to happen. I was just going to say, in my case, it's a sci-fi, and I wrote as a complete amateur to start with, and now
put my logic head on, and I'm trying to sort out all the problems and the mess that I left myself in the first half. So, I mean, yeah, how do you, then what processes do you go through to sort out the mess?
Let me, since I'm doing the exact same thing,
Very good question.
let me chime in on that, and then Corey, you can sign off. And just to respond, Carlo said he likes the outline pantser. For the record, Steve, the reason that it's called pantsing is because you either write an outline or you just write by the seat of your pants.
Oh, gotcha.
And so it's become it's just become a term.
Right.
In any case, but here's my advice, okay? And this is kind of the conclusion that I'm coming to, having wrestled with this creative stuff, which is tell the story. Right? Just tell the story, and then worry about the layers of the complexity afterwards. Because if you approach it the way I do, and I suspect maybe even the way that you're just as I'm thinking about some of the words that you're using or things that you're saying, if you really want to show kind of a rich character arc, or you really want to show good development, or you want to have kind of multi-layered complexity and depth, honestly, I am starting to come to the conclusion that you can get to the point where you bury yourself in that kind of detail.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
Until you get so fluent and you find your voice and you're so comfortable in your process that adding in that layer of subtext and that layer of complexity is just something that comes naturally as part of the process. So I think, and this is interesting, because I'm always telling my kids, look, the way you get better is by practicing. The way you get better is by doing it over and over again. And yet my expectation is that I'm going to write something, that's beautiful and timeless the first time I sit down, because that's my aspiration. That's what I want to create. But the more stuff that I read, especially indie stuff, the more I'm like, that wasn't bad, but I'm willing to read another one. Or, that was pretty good. It almost kind of scratched that itch of timeless or great or, deep character arc, but not quite. And I think I am starting to believe that that's the answer. If you want to get to great, just shoot for complete, and then shoot for good, and then great will become if that is in your nature, if you want to keep striving for great, it's going to come through repeated trials and process. Don't shoot for great right from the start. I know it sounds like a terrible piece of advice, but
no, I get where you're coming from. The problem I've got, and this is the thing I really value both your input on this, is when you're reading something or writing it, don't you ever play devil's advocate and go, well, that doesn't make sense because they could just do this. Do you do that?
Oh, yeah.
No, that messes with your head. I've been doing that 3 days solid now, trying to, oh my word, I've written this. Now I've got to get myself out of this trouble.
Yes, but here's another piece of advice, okay, which is, I say this to game developers all the time, and it's funny because I'm trying to go back and apply it to my own writing career. Your audience wants to go on a journey with you. They want to, in film, it's called the willing suspension of disbelief. I happen to think that if the audience is enjoying the ride, they will overlook or forgive certain gaffes in terms of, plot or in terms of characterization or whatever. Now, the quality level of the writing and the size of the gaffes is a kind of, sliding scale. In other words, if you have fantastic writing, you might be able to get away with more. If your writing is not as good, it only takes maybe 2 or possibly 3 gaffes before somebody goes, I'm out. I'm no longer willing to kind of go on this journey with you. And that would include things like spelling mistakes, formatting mistakes, egregious grammar, transgressions, any of that stuff. After a while, those little things just kind of add up to, all right, I'm out. But if it's timeless, deathless prose, or in the case of the Star Trek reboot movie, you can kind of overlook an 80-year gap in the plot and still, for me anyway, think, yeah, that was pretty fun. I like that. That was good.
That was awesome.
Yeah. Now, I'm only talking about
that.
Star Trek 1. Star Trek Into Darkness is terrible. And J.J. Abrams owes me money back for that movie.
Stop it.
Oh, God.
I love all of that.
It's awful. It was so bad. But in any case, so I to loop back, I feel like, you can outsmart yourself by trying to outsmart yourself, frankly. Just tell a story. You know what? Like, and think about it as your reader wants to go on a journey with you. And, so give them a journey, just go on that journey. I honestly think that's going to be easier than trying to account for, well, technically, if they were to use a lighter and, a little bit of fluid, then they could boil it and blah, 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 whatever, whatever scientific thing that and the reader's like, look, I got, 20 minutes before I fall asleep before bed and I just want to go on a cool journey. Like, Steve, take me somewhere, man. So yeah, if you're smarty pants, don't outsmart yourself.
Yeah, no, that's good advice. Thank you. Yeah.
You will get stuck. I mean, I think one of the ways that I handle it now that I didn't do this before is I sit down and when I'm writing the first draft, I just let myself write the first draft and I don't self-edit as I'm going. And so I write by scene. Because it's in Scrivener, it's easy for me to do that. So if I'm writing a scene and I start to get stuck because of thinking too much, I get up and walk away. I literally do this. And I walk the stairs and I talk out loud until I get the answer. And then I come back and I fix it. And then I go forward. But I don't do it. It's not a lot of self-editing. It's all about just get it all out onto the screen in front of me. And then after I go through it one time, I go through one edit after that before I send it to my editor.
Okay.
Basically. So I'll go through one edit, send it to my editor, because what he is going to do is tell me this didn't make sense, or I have a question about this, and then I can go, okay, yeah, I kind of thought that too. Maybe I should fix that. And we're going to go through that. I have a revision on my table right now that I just picked up, and it's for North Downey, my second book. And I haven't gone through it yet, but he and I chatted about it. And I said, yeah, did you get to that one part where and he's like, uh-huh. I said, okay. So you have some good feedback for me right there. I get to change something right there. And then I'll go through my round of edits, and I usually won't send it back to him because he and I talk all the time. So it's just go through the edits he gave me and fix the stuff that I need to fix. And then I'm starting to format. That's pretty much my process. But let yourself just write it out, get a timer, give yourself 25 minutes to write everything out, and then stop the timer, take a break. I've been doing that lately. That works really well.
Yeah, I mean, relating it to music, I started in art in music, really. With music, you get the inspiration. You must drop everything and do it now, because those notes would disappear, the atmosphere, the feeling would disappear. So with writing, for me at the moment, that's not been the case all in one, because I've been getting the pieces for 6 years, and I'm just like saying, right, we'll drop that in. It's a much more editing process now, I guess. But can I just say that when you said you walk away, you go up the stairs and you say it out loud, I like to take baths, okay? But I've taken so many baths in the last 3 days, I'm virtually a prune underneath.
Maybe you should try my method. Walk around, hula hoop. I do that too. I get a hula hoop and I hula hoop and think. I mean, I do strange things like that. Sometimes if my husband's around, I'll bounce off the idea with him and walk through it, because I'm writing about murders and things like that, and some of the stuff is going to be pretty technical, and I have to really know what I'm talking about, or I'll come off sounding really stupid when somebody reads it. And so when I'm just writing it the first time, I'll put in like a blank line because I know I have to fix that later, or I'll make a little note in Scrivener. Oh, I need to come back, and I'll have my questions that I've got to go back to when I come around to the next draft and fix. But I mean, just get it out. Last week I was trying this Pomodoro. I think it's Pomodoro, but it's a timer, and I have it on my phone, and it's set for 25 minutes, that I was referencing before, and I get a 5-minute break. Well, I did that on one day because I just wanted to see how much I could actually write in a day if I was using this timer, and I got over 5,000 words done that day. Just sitting down and going, boom, let me just get this out, because I'm working on the third book and a different book at the same time, and so I wanted to see what I could do. But that kind of stuff helps. And when I finally learned to do that, I started to write better and faster if I didn't self-edit, So just get everything out.
Yeah.
And don't worry if it doesn't make sense. Look that stuff up later if it doesn't make sense.
That last point is so important. I once heard an interesting kind of rule of thumb. You're a programmer, or at least you were, Steve. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever heard this maxim or not, but somebody once told me that programmers never get faster, but they get better. And so when you're assessing a programmer, from at least in game development, you want to understand, how fast they are and how good they are, with the understanding that they're not necessarily going to get faster because people, process logic at whatever speed, but they will get better at writing code. It's, it's more robust, it's better commented, it's, it's more flexible, the rest of that type of thing. And I suspect that, at least from what I've heard, that writers can get faster, but they definitely get better. The more you write, the better you get at it. The more you are comfortable. Oh, Glenda's back too. Wow, we're seeing all our old friends come back to join us today. That's great. Hi, Glenda. Welcome back. Anyway, so I feel like, what Corey just said about the fact that you're going to get, better and faster is really a big part of what we need to do as indie authors, is just keep banging it out, just keep on going, and understand that, there is some, I don't know, you're just going to get better the more you do it. And so don't get worried about writing something beautiful up front, going back to that original point, right? Don't necessarily worry about that at the start. From what I understand, there's one woman who got signed to a writing, a publishing contract based on her work in a creative writing, one of those graduate programs where you're going to get your master's in creative writing or whatever. Mm-hmm. And again, this is, just my own understanding of it, but the reason that you go in to get your master's in creative writing is to develop your writing habit. Honestly, it's to develop that habit of, oh my gosh, I have deadlines every single day and I just have to produce a huge body of work. Yeah. And that's the biggest reason to do it, is that it is effectively forcing you to develop that daily writing habit of producing, a huge amount of work. And if you prove through the course of, the master's program that that you can produce work on a regular basis, and the quality is pretty good, publishers are much more willing to come along and scoop you up and sort of say, oh, look at that. This person, in the course of their creative, in their master's program, they did the work in the master's and they wrote this series of books, or they have plans for a 7-book, fiction series or something like that. And so they kind of, that's, I believe, what the big value in the master's in creative writing program is about developing that daily writing habit. But you don't necessarily have to go and get your master's degree. It's just a structure, a construct that will really, and of course, I'm not discounting what writing teachers can teach you, and all the, professors are going to tell you how to do good stuff and blah, blah, blah. Sorry, professors, I ain't trying to disrespect you in any way. I'm just saying the number one thing is the writing habit. Corey actually is a martial artist, and she's ruthlessly dedicated to, kind of strict regimen every single day. She's super productive when it comes to stuff. So,
I try.
No, it's awesome. I mean, the amount of stuff that you do and the amount of work that you create all the time with the podcasts that you do and running a tea business, plus also cracking the whip on your family and keeping them in order. It's good. It's awesome. So anyway,
things get let go sometimes.
Right. I mean, that's the way it goes. But anyway, so there you go. Sorry.
But the writing habit, the idea of the writing habit is huge, because I did not have a solid writing habit when I first started. When I first published, I published in 2011. I didn't have a writing habit. I just wanted to see what this was all about. And then in about 2013, I started to say, I think I might want to take this a little more seriously than I was. And then I was doing nano again and discovered that I really write well in the mornings. And I kind of like doing that. And so I started to develop more of a habit. And I have to be a little flexible in that sometimes because of the other things that I do. But I'm better about writing consistently now than I was before, for sure. whether it's writing my blogs or it's writing on one of the books that I'm working on or editing or whatever, there's something happening every single day. I mean, that's basically the habit for me. The exception would be, Monday through Friday. Sometimes I do it on Saturday and Sunday. It just kind of depends, but I try not to do that on Saturday and Sunday because that's when my kids are home because they're not in school. And so I try to spend time with them on Saturday and Sunday. But yeah, the habit is huge. And I didn't believe how important that was until, a couple of years ago, and how much faster and better you can become if you just have a habit of doing it. So, there you go. Habits are good. I can talk a lot about habit formation, actually.
She can. What is it? It's the SMART goals. What are your goals? What's your...
You can do SMART goals or Rumba goals. I can never remember what the SMART ones go. I think it's SMART is like specific.
I like yours. You do yours. Is it Rumba?
Oh, Rumba. Rumba goals. Realistic, understandable, measurable, believable, and achievable. Rumba goals. That's what I do. I've done it for years.
I told you she's awesome, man.
Absolutely for years.
She can crack that stuff out all day.
It's because I used to be a trainer. I used to teach people this stuff. But the habit formation stuff, I started studying that about a year ago. And so I love reading everything about habit formation. And it's amazing. I mean, I've made a lot of little changes that made a huge difference in just day-to-day routines. It's been amazing, actually. So, okay, did we answer your question?
Totally.
Did you have any other?
Well, maybe I should let somebody else come on, but yeah, that's great. And thank you for passing on your wisdoms, plural there.
It's just experiences.
We're right where you are, buddy. We're all wrestling with your stuff,
We're all just going, what do we do? I don't know what to do.
No, it's great. I mean, I love the fact that I get so much value out of knowing that there are other people that are wrestling with, like you're wrestling with trying to launch your movie thing, and Corey's managing her tea stuff and writing her books, and I'm doing what I'm doing. I love the fact that we're all out there trying to make a kind of a go of the indie thing and find a way forward. I just love that. I think it's awesome. That really is, in my humble opinion, the future of what business is going to look like, is this sort of independent, entrepreneurial, using social media to kind of create your own platform. I think that's the future. We're right out there on the cutting edge of what the future looks like. I think it's neat.
I think so, because I think
it's so much fun.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think future jobs are going to suck big time if they don't suck already, because of the increased pressure, increased expectation, diminishing wages. In the end, you think, I might as well go independent.
I like having control. I mean, that's why I've done it for so long. I mean, I've been an entrepreneur for almost 13 years. And so I would have a really difficult time going and working for someone else at this point. So yeah, I'm right there with everybody. It would suck. It would be really hard,
hey, Corey,
to do it. I would do it if I had to.
Corey, I'm sorry to interrupt. Are you seeing you're getting a message from, I think her name is Althea Ledford, a Female Exec magazine over here? She's saying, she tried to send you a message on Twitter.
Okay, I'll check it.
I'm going to let you guys carry on, but really nice to talk to you again. I'll see you soon.
Steve, it's great to talk to you too. Thanks for coming back.
Thanks for coming in.
Cheers.
I love when our friends come back. Glenda, I don't know if you heard me say, welcome back. It's nice to have you back.
I think it's awesome. Okay, I didn't see that message. I'll go and look over on Twitter in a minute. My computer went to sleep, and I don't want to keep messing with that. Okay, so there were a couple other things that we were going to talk about. We covered your novel thing, right? Or do we have more?
Oh no,
on the novel
I'm
front?
Done ranting now. I'll sit here quietly and behave myself.
You weren't ranting. It was good information. All right. So I have a couple updates, a couple things that were really exciting that happened in the last couple weeks.
That's great. I also have one more thing. I have something to talk about for marketing, so I'll share that with you if you want to know later.
Well, no, we can go to marketing right now.
You talk first. I talked a lot already. It's your turn. You talk now. Okay,
so here's what happened. I'm so excited. Okay, so I mentioned the 5,000 words. Okay, I was so ecstatic that I was able to get to. It was over 5,000 words in that day. I was exhausted at the end of the day. I was so tired at the end of the day, but it was really cool because it showed me what I was capable of. And now it's like, wow, I can get faster at this. And so I really liked doing it. And I'm going to keep using the timer thing and seeing how much I can get done in a 25-minute period of time. So that's a little tip to everybody. That Pomodoro timer thing, that's kind of useful. So give it a shot if you're trying to increase your speed and see how much you can write in a set period of time. Just fun. So that was one fun thing that happened last week. Another fun thing that happened, I had my second international sale just last week. I was so excited. And this was from Australia, and it was on Kobo. I have been trying so hard to get a book to sell on Kobo, and it sold on Kobo, and I was doing the Snoopy happy dance around the house. I was so excited.
That's great.
It was awesome. And my husband was laughing because he's like, wait a minute, that's all you earned? Because it's really small. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand. So then I was explaining all the royalty structures for traditional published authors versus indie authors. And then he's like, oh, okay, I get it. This makes more sense now.
Yeah. Well, it's money for writing. But the other thing is I love, there's something about the Kobo interface and just, they are so friendly and so open and so flexible.
And helpful.
Yeah, I love that platform, and I want that platform to be successful in every way. I really do. And so that's great. Anything that we could do to kind of help them get sales is good for two reasons. One, because I love the platform, and two, because competition in the e-marketplace is only beneficial to us. It's helpful to us. If they're competing, in a valid way or more valid way with Amazon, that's better for authors in indies everywhere. So.
Well, and Kobo is getting a lot more recognition lately. I mean, in terms of a platform for authors and for readers, it's getting up there underneath Amazon, from what I understand. And it's actually very popular in other parts of the world compared to Amazon.
Good.
And so that it's a good platform, and it's owned by a bigger corporation and everything else. So I have no doubt that Kobo is going to keep going, which is why I was trying so hard to get a sale on Kobo so I could finally get things moving on Kobo. I was like, oh, yes, this is awesome. Let's get that ball going. So then the other thing that happened last week, you remember that Reader's Favorite review site that I told you about?
Yes.
You go to the Reader's Favorite. Okay. Well, and I mentioned in one of our indie author hours that they hadn't gotten back to me. And I was like, well, maybe nobody wants to read my book, blah, blah, blah. Well, I got a response last week, and I ended up with a 5-star review on my book.
Ooh, good.
And I was like, oh my God. And here's what makes this cool, just so everybody knows. Okay, so you go to Reader's Favorite, and I submitted my book for a free review, which means it could take weeks. And it did. It took a couple months or something. I don't know. And then I got an email that said that, nobody wanted to read it. They didn't have a reviewer for it or whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, no harm, no foul. Keep moving forward. So then last week when I got that review back, and it was a wonderful review, I was shocked. What I forgot, though, was that when you get a review from Reader's Favorite, they then give you like an author page where the review is and all of your information. And then you can pull in your reviews from other sites and put them all right there on that page, and then start using that page to communicate your reviews with people. They give you a little 5-star or 4-star, whatever you happen to get, seal that you can put on your ebooks as an image, and that you can put on your physical books. So I can buy, well, those you have to buy. So, that's not free. They're not expensive. But you can buy a roll of those seals and put them on all your physical books when you want to sell your physical books. I had forgotten all about that. I thought, oh my God, this is amazing, right? So now I immediately changed it. My ebook cover for Hush was the book that got submitted and reviewed, now has the seal on it for the 5-star review from Reader's Favorite. So if you go over to Amazon.com, if you go to Kobo, you go anywhere, you're going to see that seal's on there. And then I went in and changed on the top of the page for Hush, it says, Reader's Favorite, 5-star review, whatever, and I made it big and all that. So I went through and I started updating. This was just a couple days ago that this happened. And I was like, oh, this is so awesome. So I was super excited about that because it was totally unexpected. And I thought, oh, this is so cool. So there you go. Those were some fun things that happened. Oh, I got one more subscriber on my email list.
Fantastic.
Who knew?
Awesome.
I got one more subscriber. Yes. And Womanly Art of Self-Defense got its first official rating and review from a listener. So I was excited about that.
Wow.
Because it's hard to get people to go to iTunes and do that.
Yeah.
Do it for Backport Writer, please. Go over and find Backport Writer on iTunes and please rate and review the show. I'm changing the format of the show.
Carlo, thank you for being with us. I want to know, before you go, more about the graphic novels that you're working on. I followed you, but next time I hope you'll actually, if you want to share your link for what you're working on. Steve, you have a good week too. If you want to share what you're working on in chat before you go, please do. You're welcome to do that because we're all indies here working on stuff. So anyway, I don't know if you're still here, if you can hear me, but
hopefully. Yeah. So that's my cool update. So we can go
fantastic.
On. Because we got a couple minutes since we started late. The work is in Filipino, but I'll be working on an English translation. Very cool. Very cool. But like I said, if you have a link or anything that you want people to check out, put it in there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I can still look at a graphic novel even if it's in another language. That's how I originally became aware of the Mobius work before it was translated into English. So, by all means, share your links if you want to.
You may.
Absolutely.
Sure. Just call in.
Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, we're friendly folk.
So while he's waiting to call in, and we're waiting for him, the marketing stuff, I thought we could touch briefly on why we pick the marketing things that we pick. For example, I just spent money on KDROI and KDPulse. And the KDROI comes from the guy that you like that does the Kindle spy thing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
KDROI,
so,
KDPulse?
Yeah, the KDPulse, that doesn't come from him. I think that might be something that's affiliated with Author Marketing Club, but I'm not positive about that. But when I looked at it, the description of it reminded me of something that Jim Kukral said in his on his show about a tool that he was developing or whatever. So I don't know if it's this KDPulse or not, but I actually spent money and bought both.
Ooh, that a girl.
And I'm glad I did.
Get a load of you buying stuff.
I'm glad I did. I know, but these are marketing tools that I looked at them and went, I need this. And let me tell you why. That KDROI one, what it allows you to do is when you're on Amazon, you can, once you have it, you can pull in the information from your book and promote it to several sites. If you've got a free promotion, a 99-cent promotion, and I think one other thing, I can't remember, permafree maybe. And then you can promote it to, 40 or so sites. If it's a free promotion, if it's 99-cent one, it may be that like 14 sites or something. But here's why this is a big, hairy deal. Because if you want to do this outside of using this tool costs something like $47 right now, somewhere in that range. The only other tool I knew of to do this that I could use would cost me $15 every time I wanted to do it. So every time I wanted to push out a promo, I was going to pay $15. That can get pricey, right? This I pay $47 one time.
You do it 3 times, it pays for itself.
And I'm like, dude, so I'm already running promos. I already put two books out to do some promos. And yeah, I'm loving that. I think that's an awesome tool. It brings in all the information. So it's really super easy to do it. It takes a couple seconds to actually do this process, which is also way better than what I did before.
Good for you.
Which took even more time.
Good for you.
So check out that KDROI. That's why I picked it. It saves time and it was reasonably priced compared to what you'd have to do if you did it over and over and over again.
I certainly would +1 my endorsement of the people that make Kindle Spy and those other products. There's good stuff. I mean, his emails are very no frills. I'm assuming you've seen kind of his promotional emails.
Thank you.
They really look conversational would be putting it nicely. I mean, they look very no frills and a little bit sketchy, but that's only because he just doesn't seem to believe in adding any production value other than the information. And I think that's really actually pretty cool. That his emails are just sort of like, hey, I got a thing. If you're interested, here's the thing. And it could come off as a little bit sketchy, but good people.
He does seem to add in there, and this is why you should probably buy the thing. He takes it a little bit that direction. And I have to tell you, I check every time. Every time he sent me an email, I'm like, no, I don't want that.
Yeah. But you do check, right? Because you're like, I don't know. Hello, Carlo.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hi, Carlo.
Hi. Am I coming in clearly?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, it's 1:00 in the morning here in Manila.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's fine. I work at these hours.
Oh, my sister-in-law just came back from that area.
Oh, okay.
Actually.
Okay. Well,
she's probably really tired.
Well, since you asked about what I do, yes, I'm a graphic novelist here in Manila, among other things. As we know that, as indie authors, we don't really make a lot of money, but so
Say it ain't so.
Yeah, I mean, we're trying to fulfill the dream. We're trying to fulfill the dream. Yeah. Oh well. Just for a quick thing, this is my book. Yeah, it's in Filipino. It's a Wonder Woman-ish type of comic book, and over here it got turned into a stage musical and a major film.
Wow.
In 2006.
Seriously?
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
that is so
yeah,
awesome.
I know. It was like, ooh, so those things happen to ordinary folks like us. Yeah. So
you're probably doing better monetarily than we are on our books right now.
Well, my problem was, it did give me a bit, but I have this problem about financial management, so it's like it came and went. So that's what it happened.
Okay. Never mind.
Yeah, but then I have a publisher. I mean, I have a traditional publisher over here, so I have a sequel to that book, and then on the side, I'm also a playwright on the side. So this is the playbill for a musical that I wrote just last year, and it's about superheroes too. So yeah, so anywhere in the world, we exist. We're not going away.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
We're not going away. Well, do you have a home website where all that stuff lives? I mean, it has links to all your products?
Well, honestly, my home base really right now is my Facebook page. That's my home base.
You should put that in. You should put the link in chat for sure.
Okay. Okay. Sure. The biggest irony is right here, I'm a graphic designer as well, and I don't have my own website. So it's like, it's one of those things.
Sad. That's very sad.
Yeah. It's kind of like an author. It's kind of like an author trying to write his autobiography. I mean, I'd like to imagine that that's kind of difficult. And what do I put in there without showing everyone that I'm just stroking my ego? Something like that. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Autobiographies, I think I would avoid that. But the more I learned about memoir, the more interesting that is. Memoir, yeah. I started to take a class in it. I didn't have time to actually finish the class, but it was fascinating because it's about taking one piece of your personal history and exploring that, talking about what it meant to you or why it was important. And so just sort of the ego stroking of an autobiography is one thing, but memoir is I'm fascinated by that as a topic, to take a piece out of your own personal past and just, I don't know, explore it in a kind of literary way. So yes, if you're intimidated by the idea or worried about it seeming too egotistical, autobiography, then go memoir. Nobody will be critical of a memoir.
Yeah.
But get your website done.
Yeah, I know. Here's the thing. The one thing that I because since I draw and I also write, it's the thing that it's a lot easier to write. Honestly, it's a lot easier to write stories than to draw them because I spend like 5 to 8 hours on a page just to draw it, but then I can write that page in like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, something like that. Mm-hmm. So but it's one of the things that I want to transition to in a way, but then it might be difficult for me, at least here, because here people expect me to make graphic novels and comics. So I'm just inching my way into that slowly.
Do you do anything by commission, Carlo? Do you do any covers or commission art or anything like that, or do you just work on your own own stuff?
Yeah, I do commission work too. In fact, in the middle of the 2000s, I did work for an American company based in Wisconsin. It's Eureka Productions. They do graphic classics adaptations, so it's basically comic versions of classic stories, Edgar Allan Poe and stuff like that. So I've done a number of stories with them. I've done 4 projects with them, around 20 to 40 pages each. So yeah, I do commission work from time to time. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yeah. It's always good to know, illustrators and cover designers, because man, people who can do that work, there's just a constant demand for that. So
Yeah.
and
Yes.
always looking for
true.
people like that. It's nice to meet someone, actually. That's great.
I have a
Some of
question
us
though.
can't do that.
Yeah, I have a question though. I have a question
Mhm.
for the writers. I don't know if you guys do you guys do commission work in writing?
Ooh, that's an interesting question.
So like ghostwriting or freelance writing, that sort of stuff?
No, because I've been toying with this idea. A lot of people who want to make comic books, a lot of them are writers. And so what they do is they write a script and they search around for an artist to draw their stuff. Now, I was wondering if the reverse can actually happen. What if a comic book artist had this concept, had this story, had this structure, he has this outline, but he doesn't really know how to thresh it out as actual prose. So I was wondering, is that a thing? Like, can someone approach a freelance writer?
Yeah.
And if that's so, I was wondering what kind of arrangement would that be? Is it like a flat fee or is it a per word thing? What are your thoughts on that?
I think it probably depends who you approach on that. Because it almost sounds like it's kind of like ghostwriting to me, but not exactly, because you said you would have it fleshed out or whatever. I think of it kind of like ACX, the platform for making your book an audiobook.
Okay.
You can do two things on that platform. You can hire someone outright to do your audiobook for you, or you can say, hey, I want to go 50-50 on this, meaning, when it starts to sell, you get 50% and I get 50% and all's good.
Okay.
So it kind of depends. I mean, I think you probably could find people who would go either direction. I think the people with a lot more experience might say, hey, just pay me flat out.
Okay.
And just pay me up front. Where the people are maybe a little more experienced might say, okay, we can do a 50-50 deal or something. But that's just my take.
Yeah, and it doesn't have to be 50-50. I mean,
No, it doesn't.
I agree with you, Carlo, in that, producing writing, it's faster than producing drawings. There's no question. I mean, it's easier to produce writing. It doesn't necessarily mean that the writing is good, just like, with art. And so it's hard to judge, but I think, if you were to find somebody and you said, look, 50-50 split doesn't seem fair considering how long it takes me to produce a page of drawing, then I would imagine that, especially since you've got, a property that's working for you, a smart writer would say, look, we can work another deal. But yeah, you could pay them up front. I guess it also depends on whether or not you feel like you want that person as a partner.
Okay.
You might think about, do you want that person's ideas? Do you want that person to be contributing, or do you want them to just be, a way for you to express the ideas that are in your own head? I've personally found that the creative process it's tricky. Even if you ask someone up front, or, you say, hey, here's this thing we're going to do together. It's really hard to know if it's going to work, the collaboration is going to work until you get into it a little ways, until you actually try it on for size. I had an example of a painter. He's an art director on movies and stuff like that. He said, hey, I want to develop an intellectual property. And so we started the brainstorming process, and it just didn't work out. I mean, it just didn't work very well. I would communicate ideas to him, and I was kind of waiting for feedback, and I don't know, whatever. So that would be another thing that I would recommend is think about, or two things. One, think about if you're looking for someone to just kind of give structure to your own ideas, or whether or not you're looking for a partner. Because if you're just looking for someone for structure, you probably just want to pay up front and say, look, let's do this as a work for hire thing. Because, and two, structure the deal so that you can try it out and then terminate if it's not working to the satisfaction of either one of you. Give it a try, even if it's try it out for free a little bit up front. And if it's not working out, then you could just walk away from the deal. No harm, no foul, maybe even no money exchange. Just say, look, let's do a chapter together and see how we feel about that. And if that's not working out, then we'll walk away, because that'll give you the opportunity to just have more control of the outcome. But for my money, I I think a smart writer would jump at the chance to work with a graphic designer who wanted to put words to art. I would do it if you were looking for another pair of fingers. Count me in.
This is just like children. When you have children's books, you know, I write children's books too. So, but I'm not an illustrator. I can't draw anything but stick people, maybe. And so I hire someone to do the illustrations for me, but they don't collaborate with me on the story. I've already written the story. I just hire them to do the pictures for me. You know, so it's a similar situation, just reversed, right? So in that case, I pay them a flat, here's how much I'm going to pay you. We agree to that, and that's done.
Okay.
And it's not unlike when you hire somebody to do a cover design. You know, I pay them a flat whatever, and then they're done. Okay. They don't have any piece of my book after that.
Okay. Yeah, because I was toying with an idea. And maybe you guys might want to do this. You know, I mean, it's like a suggestion, because there are a lot of people, illustrators here, who have fantastic ideas for intellectual property, and a lot of them do their own comic books, and they have good ideas, but they kind of lack in the story department. And so what I'm thinking, that maybe they may not be writers, but at least they can be taught structure, character arc, plot arc, you know, those things. So if they can learn how to do that, and they can come up with some sort of outline that's more or less complete. I mean, they got the backstory in, they got the entire journey of the character in, they got all the beats in and all that, and then they can just hire a writer to sort of flesh it out. So, and I think maybe that might be a good seminar that you guys can do for illustrators or for graphic designers or for comic book artists who have ideas, but they don't necessarily know how to create stories out of them.
That's a great idea. That's a neat idea.
It's a good idea.
I think that's a super cool idea. Yes, agreed. A class about writing for artists, I think, would be a fantastic, especially as an e-class. Corey, we got to do that now. We should make an e-class of writing for artists. I think that'd be great. And you got to do the illustrations for us, Carlo. You could help. The counter example would be something like Watchmen, where, you know, Alan Moore and Dave Gibbons, the collaboration on that is so. Of course you read it. I mean, I know you've read Watchmen, right? Like everybody has, right? The collaboration between the art and the writing is so profound that even now, whatever it is, 30 years later, I can still open that book and occasionally find things that I haven't noticed before. Occasionally find little bits of detail that, you know, that Gibbons put into the art, or that there are things about. I learned something about it just the other day that I never knew. I had no idea. And so that's, yes, I agree that, you know, like producing work, it can be compartmentalized, but I think the dream for me anyway, to create something that's really resonant, is to find that kind of a collaborative partner where you're feeding off of each other and it's sort of resonating back and forth and makes something really timeless. But again, that may not be what, you know, what people are looking for, but I yearn for that, you know, I yearn for that, like, oh, let's make something awesome together. I guess it comes from my background as a software developer, as a game developer, where the end creative product is a part of what the team does together, and you're feeding off of each other's energy like that. But yeah, anyway, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. It's just another rant. I'm ranting. I have a lot of rants in this today.
It's okay.
He apparently hasn't had enough coffee. I think he said that.
Well, anyway, thank you so much for having me jump in for a while. So it's 1:20 in the morning here. I got to get back to work. So
hey, it was really a pleasure to meet you. Please come back and visit us.
It was great meeting you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks,
you
Carlo.
guys have a great afternoon.
You too, buddy.
Oh, you too. Well, early morning. It's kind of late for him. See you later. Okay, so we probably should start to wrap things up because it's 12:20. We should be wrapping these things up. Do you have any?
What? Sorry. Go.
What?
Oh, sorry. Go ahead. What were you going to say?
Do you have any final things you want to add?
Yes.
About marketing.
I broke my Facebook advertising funnel the other day. I broke it. Remember how I told you that my goal was to try to see if I could find a way to convert the funnel more towards sales?
Yeah.
I completely shattered it all to pieces. I'm seeing hundreds of people clicking on my ads and 0 conversions. So I don't know how I broke it, but I did break it big time.
And this was just going from trying to get signups to go to get sales?
Well, what I did specifically, and I won't, we can talk more about this next week, but what I did was I changed the landing page a little bit, right? So that it was not quite so Spartan. I thought I was bringing it more graphically in line with my brand, but obviously that didn't work. And I changed the thank you page from a static, dry, social share, thank you, your book is coming in the mail, please share this page, to a video. Hey, it's me. Nice to meet you. Thanks for blah, blah, blah. And with an upsell attached, with a kind of like, after you watch the video, there's an upsell saying, oh, by the way, hey, look, here's the whole book. It could be cool. Holy cow. Something about that conversion from the landing page. It went from roughly 15 to maybe 20% conversions down to 3% conversions.
Wow.
And people, and I was getting 0 signups on my email list, like nothing. It's just unbelievable. The ads are people are still clicking on ads, but I broke the landing page, but good. So over the past 48 hours, have been scrambling around to try to fix it and be like, put it back.
Just go back to what you were doing.
Yeah, I
do that.
Yeah, I don't know. It's funny. I don't know if I want to go back to what I was doing though. Oddly enough, just adding subscribers to the list is not enough. And that's not the goal. My goal is not to just give stuff away to people for free. My goal is to sell books. And so I now have a list of whatever it is, 1,200 people or something like that. But that's not what I need. I need to sell books. Or I need to, get people that are interested in e-classes and something like that. So I'm at this point kind of thinking, all right, well, there's a list and I'm going to see what I can do with that, but I might stop the Facebook advertising entirely now that I've really busted the funnel. And I don't know, try to retool the whole thing when it comes time to launch the class and see what I can do with the list as it exists and some new Facebook advertising. But here's a tip for our indie pals out there in, individual marketing land. If your funnel is working the way that you want it to be working, don't break your funnel. Don't change your funnel. If you want to do anything, copy all that stuff and make a new funnel and see how that works. Don't change your funnel. It's working great.
Oh, you didn't copy it?
No comment. I'm not going to. I have no comment. I'm not going to. I don't want to. Okay. I'm not going to say anything about that. Let's just say there might have been a little bit of overconfidence and hubris in the, I'm a Facebook advertising master. I know what I'm doing.
I'm sure it'll all work.
Thanks.
I'm sure you will get this. I'm sure you will.
I will fix it.
I know.
I will fix it. However, yes, I was feeling a little bit overconfident. I know what I'm going to do. I'm just going to make a couple of changes. This is going to fly. No.
Yeah, I'm not even at the level where I could do that. But like I said, I'm not going to do my Facebook stuff just yet.
You know what's going to happen?
What you gave me?
When you're ready for Facebook, I'm going to do it for you. I want to do it for you. I'm keen. I'm at the bit to do it for you. As soon as you say,
I'm waiting.
What?
I'm waiting. I'm going to wait until I'm probably going to do something after book 2. So between North Downing and On Your 6 is when I'm going to start to do some stuff like marketing type stuff, advertising type stuff that's for the entire series, because I want to be pretty much done with On Your 6.
Why won't you let me build your funnel just to build your list right now? I could make a couple of changes, take me 2 days.
You have a lot to do.
I do, but I could do it so fast. I'm sure I could get this going. And I won't do anything, I won't do anything overconfident, and I won't bust it. Please, please, I beg you, Corey.
We can talk about it offline. We can see. I gotta make sure I have a budget for it and all that jazz,
Well, you can count my labor as free.
I need to get the list built, though. I do know that because my list.
You do, and you need to start building a list today. Like, there's no reason not to have a list. If it, other than
one more subscriber. You know.
Yeah, but you already got your review out of that person, so that don't help you none. You need to
I didn't get a review. I don't know.
Anyway.
All right, so we should wrap this up. But this has been great. Thank you, Hardy. So, Hardy, are we going to go over your Facebook funnel breakage next week and talk about that a little bit more?
I'm perfectly willing to reveal my dirty laundry to the universe. You bet.
So I wrote a note so that I would remember that. Everybody go check out that KDROI tool. And I didn't say this, I should mention this, that KDPulse tool. I didn't describe what it does. What it does is it brings in all of your sales data from Kindle into one spot, which is really useful because like right now, if you have a Kindle book out there, you have to go over to your author central page, and then you can see some information there, but you can't really see much about, sales. Then you can go to KDP and you can see your sales, but you can't see everything all at once and make it make sense. You have to click on this and click on that and this book and that book and all this. And then sometimes you have to go over to your actual page on Amazon to look at, say, your reviews. Well, this tool brings it all into one spot. So you can see in real time what your rank is for the book, how much you're selling your book for, how many sales you've had, how many downloads you've had, how many borrows you've had. Did I say your rating? It'll have your star rating, or your reviews. It'll have your reviews there. So it has everything in one spot. The other thing you can do with it. What?
This is KDROI? This is KDROI?
No, this is the KDPulse. This is the Pulse one. So this is the tool, a sales data collection tool. The other thing you can do that's kind of cool is you can bring in another author's information into it so you can look to see how they're doing and how you're doing compared to them. You won't see all the level of detail, like what their sales are necessarily and all that, but you'll see a lot of stuff that you can compare. How are they pricing a book that's at the same number of pages that you have? Because that's another column in your KDPulse is the number of pages your book is. So you can do a comparative analysis there with other people. If you're selling your book for $2.99 and your book is, 100 pages and you're selling it for $2.99 and you're wondering why it's not selling, that's why it's not selling probably. Just a hint, it's 100 pages and you're selling it for $2.99 and you're a new author. Yeah, not going to buy it. So those are things to think about, but you can compare that with other authors in your genre. So I thought that was kind of a cool tool, and it was only $27. So it wasn't like a really expensive thing to pick up. And so far I'm liking it. I think it's pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But I forgot that I didn't actually describe it. So now, if there aren't any other questions, then we can wrap things up.
There are no other questions, just a comment. I'm super proud of you for doing some research and finding a tool that you like and spending a little money on it. That's awesome.
Yeah,
it's good.
I'm still looking at the editor tool. I'm not finished with that yet.
Oh, I'm keen to see how you feel about that. All right, there you go.
All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us on Indie Author Hour. Again, I'm Corey, and this is...
I'm Hardy. What a great show. How fun.
This was awesome. It was a lot of fun. It'll be over on YouTube, and no, there won't be any show notes. I'm just not even going to lie about that anymore. It's not going to happen.
Jesus Christ. Every single time we put up a show with no notes, you know that. It makes the baby Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry. I got other things to do, and I hate doing show notes. I really hate it. I'm not going to lie about that. I don't like doing it. You know what I have to do?
Come on, this is an appeal to friends of the show. Please help us. I have to
listen to the show again, right, and then write the show notes. That's what I typically have to do. And I'm like, oh, no, I don't want to. So I need somebody who can do show notes for us.
How do show notes typically work? Does someone write down notes as they're recording the show? I have no idea.
Well, this is live, so I'm trying to take notes on what we're talking about and try and get the links and then go and put them in there. But I inevitably miss stuff, and so I listen to the show again as it's on YouTube. When I'm trying to do notes, I'll listen to the show again and write some notes in the notes there. That's what I was doing, and I was doing that on the Back Porch Writer page too. And then take those notes and put them over there.
Here's the offer, okay? For anyone out there who volunteers to come to the Indie Author Hour and take show notes for us, you will get a complete volume of all of Corey's work and my work 100% free. But
ebook.
In ebook format. But you get the complete Ultimate Edition. You get all Corey's books, all for free. I'm making a promise for you, by the way.
See that.
Hope you don't mind. But we definitely need a friend to the show, someone who will log in and be that for us. And this is that's a couple $100 worth of stuff right there, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
It is.
Plus, you can get invitations onto our special guest reader lists. You can become a Shadow Team member or a Secret Bear, and you get an invitation to the Video Game Careers VGC Readers Room, which is my select group of closed Facebook group for people that are members of the VGC community, Video Game Careers community. So, hey, you want to get all the freebies? You don't want to be on the mailing list? You want to wait? You want to everything? Come on, help us out. How's that?
Please do the show notes.
Boom. All right. Thank you, Corey.
See you later.
See ya.